Okay, so I think we will start by this time. Ready na po lahat? Okay, good evening everyone. First of all, it is my pleasure to be the facilitators on today's another session of Research Talk on Practical Research 1. So my name is Cyril Q. Galang from Santa Maria National High School. As early as now, I am taking the opportunity for thanking you all on your generous time to be with us on this session. So on behalf of the organizer, the Beyond Books and Publications, we wish to extend our warm welcome and thanking you all, our teachers, our colleagues, and of course, especially our learners who are here in the room and watching us live in Facebook and YT from all over the country. So welcome on today's session. Our eminent speaker will discuss on data collection, data gathering instrument, and analysis procedure. I know you are all excited, especially our students here, because for sure this evening will be a great one for we for I know we will all learn. So to help us keep our session productive and professional, be reminded to follow this simple virtual etiquette rules and tips. Doc Mai, please. Okay, thank you, Dr. Mayra, for the assistance. So first, do not share the meeting code. Our staff will be validating your email that you used when you registered with us. And please use the same email that you use in joining today's session. Please inform us immediately if you will use another account. Also, we are requesting everyone to mute your microphone when someone is talking or discussing. Be polite, and you can use our chat box or click on the icon labeled participants at the bottom center of your computer or your phone screen. And at the bottom of the window, click the button labeled raise hand and be patient to acknowledge your name first before you talk. Also, chat box will be available to post your queries or questions on the topic. And at the end of the discussion, of course, our speaker will be kind enough to satisfy your queries. Be prepared for a technical difficulty, of course, in the process of our virtual meeting. You can join again in case you experience connection loss. We are live in our YT channel and FB page, and we will appreciate if you can share on your timeline our live streaming. Let us formally open the session by singing our Makabayan song and with a prayer. Please, Doc Mike, click the button.
Ang bayan ko'y tanging ikaw, Pilipinas kong mahal, ang puso ko at buhay man sa iyo'y ibibigay. Tungkulin ko'y gagampanan na lagi kang paglingkuran. Ang laya mo'y papantayan, Pilipinas kong hirang. Ang bayan ko'y tanging ikaw, Pilipinas kong mahal, ang puso ko at buhay man sa iyo'y ibibigay. Tungkulin ko'y gagampanan na lagi kang paglingkuran. Ang laya mo'y papantayan, Pilipinas kong hirang. Pilipinas kong hirang.
Amen. So let's formally open the session by okay. To begin with, I would like to invite Dr. Eugel El Santiago, our co-chair for this research talks on PR1, or Practical Research 1, to deliver his welcome speech. Please welcome Dr. Eugel El Santiago. The screen is all
Am I
yours
audible,
now,
ma'am?
Doc. Yes, sir. You're loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. A pleasant evening
Thank
to
you.
all the participants in our Zoom meeting, those who are watching in our Facebook and YouTube Live, to our dear students, teachers, and research enthusiasts, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. In behalf of Beyond Books Publication, we would like to welcome you to this another series of practical research talks. These research talks would not be possible without the initiative of our very energetic President CEO of Beyond Books Publication, Dr. Leonilo B. Capulso, together with our chairman, Dr. Maria Teresita Calapis, our IT facilitators, Dr. Myra Flores and Sir J. Ben Locsion, and of course to the rest of the technical working group. We are very thankful to have Mr. J. Ben B. Locsion, our resource speaker for tonight, with the topic Data Collection, Data Gathering Instrument, and Analysis Procedure, together with her facilitator, Dr. Cyril Galang. I am sure that our discussion tonight will help our dear students and teachers in writing and conducting research paper that will address challenges in our community, especially in the field of education. So ngayon pa lang po ay kina-congratulations ko na po kayo. Okay? So next, we would like to encourage you also to avail books from our library that will help you in writing your research. We have inquiries, investigations, and immersion, how to write and publish your thesis, how to write and publish your dissertation, how to conduct an action research in education, research methodology, practical research too, and for those who want their research papers to be published, we have iJams. Lastly, we are inviting you to our upcoming International Multidisciplinary Research Conference this September 2021 in Athens, Greece. We have new categories for nominations. So do not miss this chance to be part of this meaningful event. So for questions, you may contact our CEO President, Dr. Leonilo B. Capulso. You may also ask our Beyond Books Publication coordinators and technical working group. Follow us also and subscribe in Facebook and YouTube, Beyond Books Publication. So just relax, sit back, and learn a lot in our discussion tonight. With that, thank you and God bless. Happy researching.
Thank you very much, Doc, for welcoming our participants. So a virtual clap for you, of course. Anyways, it is really indeed a good uh, indeed it's a happy day for us, especially for the Beyond Books publication, because we just received a good news from our CEO president. But I will not, of course, be na-excite ako pero ayokong sirain yung ano, gusto ko si Sir Doy ang magbalita. Anyway, next, I am honored to invite the very reason why we are conducting research talks to deliver an officiating speech. So please welcome the President, CEO of Beyond Books Publication, the very supportive and hardworking, of course, MT1 of San Matias National High School, Dr. Leonilo B. Capulso. So let's give Doc Doy here a virtual clap.
Good evening,
Sir
everyone.
Doy.
Good
Okay, good
evening.
evening.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, loud and clear, sir. Doc.
For our participants, if you hear me, can you please give me a thumbs up in your screen? Okay, thank you. I could see those thumbs up. They are actually very appreciated. Now that we are in the new normal, when connection is very scarce, a simple thumbs up during chat groups like this or during meetings like this is very much appreciated. So I would like to extend my gratitude to all our team members in these research talks, particularly our moderator for tonight, Dr. Cyril Galang from Santa Maria High School in Isdeo, Pampanga, to our speaker, IT member and regional coordinator of Beyond Books Publication, Sir J. Ben Locsion, to our program chairs, Dr. Tess Calapis and Dr. Rio, who just delivered his speech earlier. To all our participants, teachers, our SDOs who have been very supportive, our its EIs who are also very loyal to our talks and even to our other initiative. To our IT, allow me to share screen just to reiterate the some announcements and also some favors. Can I share my screen, please? Okay, thank you. I hope I am visible. So as your president, it's always been the initiative of Bian Books Publication to enhance research productivity in the countryside and even around the world. No, so as mentioned by Dr. Rio Santiago, our recently concluded research conference and global awards were actually successful. That is why, due to public demand, we will be having our second international conference this September 24 to 26 in Athens, Greece, which we'll be doing virtually. So we are inviting actually teachers who are watching, who are in the session. We will also be giving this time some slots for senior high school students who would like to present their study in this international conference. So you only have to coordinate with your science, or I mean your research teachers, with the regional coordinators, which we will be presenting later on in your area. So this is in partnership with our country coordinator in Greece, in the person of Professor Rania Lampu, who is also the Global Teacher Prize finalist. As mentioned, we are accepting all types of research for publication, action research, applied research, thesis or dissertation, particularly those who are in need of publication prior to their graduation. We also accept literature review articles, capstone projects, and innovations. My apology. We have our coordinators from Region 1 with Dr. Obrero, Region 2, Dr. Gilbert Magulod Jr., Region 3, Dr. Rio Santiago, Region 4A, Dr. and Attorney Joel de la Cruz, Region 4B, which is Mimaropa, Sir Jopat Pentang, Region 5, Dr. Lourdes Basconia, Region 6, Dr. Joem Himlan, Region 8, actually is Sir J. Benlucion, our speaker for tonight. Region 9, Dr. Cinder Tabiolo from Jose Rizal Memorial University. Region 10, Dr. Armand Agustin. NCR, Dr. Samuel Sumawang. Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Mindanao, Dr. Jonaid Sunaid. And Dr. Ramada is for Region 7. So all your publications will be reviewed, will also be subjected to our plug scan, which is actually part of our package. Again, you are also invited for a Global Leaders and Educators Award alongside with the international conference. So again, you can coordinate with our regional coordinators, which are actually posted in the screen. So for our submission, you could either direct it to our Bian Books Publication email or contact our regional directors. We already have 2 previous issues in collaboration with some state universities around the country. And for the 3rd issue, actually, there are already some schools, colleges who already signify their willingness to publish with us also and to be our partners. For the Global Leaders and Educators Award, so which we had concluded last April. So these are just some of our awardees. So you will be receiving plaques of appreciation and medals just like this, but for our second design, that still be part of our surprise. So here are some posters for our collaborators. As mentioned, Professor Rania is our contact in Athens, Greece, who had been very supportive with us. For this second conference, we have Dr. Chai Ching Tan from Rahaja Mangala University of Technology, Ratanakosin, Thailand, as one of our plenary speaker. This time we have from Colorado, USA, in the person of Ma'am Shenette Cunanan Gonzalez, is also the president of Colorado Global School. Okay. We have Dr. Supriya Patak from Wittigaseps Incorporated, Dr. Andy Asrifan from Universitas Humadaya Serindang Rapang, Indonesia, as part of our plenary speaker. Dr. Ravindra Patak from Medicaps University, India. Dr. Mutmaina from Universitas Al-Ashariya Mandar as part of the Faculty of Education. Also, for those who cannot join us, we will be also having our first international conference in Mindanao region from Bangsamoro. We have the Bangsamoro International Research Conference with the Bangsamoro Regional Director, Professor Junaid Sadang, with Region 10, with Sir Armand Agustin. We also invite you, as mentioned, to publish your books with us. These are just some of the publications that we have. These are just some of the publications that we already did since we started publication in 2018. Those who will be publishing with us, you will be receiving a certificate of publication with ISBN, which you can use for personal growth and ranking also and promotion. And to support our free seminars, we are inviting you to avail our merchandise. If you're interested, you can just contact your regional directors. We have actually Beyond Books publication polo shirts. For those who will be availing, we have mugs. We also have nameplates. We have jackets if you want. We have bags. We have laptop holders. We have tote bags. All these things can be offered to you if you want in bulk order with a very minimal price just to support our initiative. I would like to remind everyone that our speakers, our moderators are not receiving anything. They are voluntary. But our Zoom is also a premium account, so we are also paying something, and also later on for our future events. And this is what Dr. Cyril Galang has mentioned, just to continue the improvement of our organization, of our company. We keep upgrading and we want to become a NAIAP recognized learning delivery supplier later on, learning service provider. So we have just completed the first step for our NAIAP accreditation. It will be a long way to go, but we do it one step at a time. So I think that's it. So once again, thank you very much for attending our webinar. We also would like to tell our participants here that we already started our webinar or research talks in Filipino, pagsusulat ng pananaliksik sa Filipino yesterday. And it will be every week as well in partnership with Dr. Reggie Cruz from SDO San Fernando. So once again, thank you very much and enjoy learning. Mabuhay tayong lahat at mag-ingat tayo palagi.
Yes, thank you very much, Doc Loy, for that meaningful messages, promotions, and marketings, and for officiating today's live session. So, dami ko sanang kaya lang we are maximizing our time because I know our speaker for tonight is very much excited than me because of the GLEA, or the Global Leaders and Educators Award, happening in Athens, Greece. But then again, without a further ado, I invite our speaker because I know he is so excited to share with you his expertise in the field of research. Of course, Sir Javen P. Lokshon, a 23-year-old special science teacher from Samar National School, Mother School of the province of Samar, of course, under the Catbalogan City Division, Philippines, located at its capital city, Catbalog, Samar. So, Sir Javen, as we call him in the BPP family, we will discuss data collection, data gathering instrument, and analysis procedures. So go on, the screen is all yours now, sir. Congratulations in advance. Take it away, sir. While waiting for his presentation, okay,
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Cyril, for that
okay,
very overwhelming introduction.
okay.
Indeed, I am very overwhelmed because of the superb number of participants we have right now in our Zoom meeting, and also with the participants we have in our YouTube and Facebook Live. I hope that I will be able to give insights and knowledge necessary and important for our students, teachers, and researchers at heart to dive and dig more in the culture of research. Before I go with my discussion right now, I would like to take this opportunity to first to give my sincerest gratitude to Beyond Books Publication for the opportunity of being your speaker for this research talks on Practical Research 1, especially to the CEO and President of Beyond Books Publication, Dr. Leonilo Vicapulso, and to all the technical working group and persons behind Beyond Books Publication. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope that I will be able to make use of all the time that was given to me to give insights and knowledge to all the participants. Okay, so without further ado, let me present to you the titles that I will be presenting at this evening. What we are going to tackle are the topics on data collection, data gathering instrument, and data analysis procedure. But disclaimer lang, my dear participants, I will not be able, obviously, to discuss all of this in-depthly in just a couple of hours. That is why we still have speakers for our succeeding research talk sessions who will be discussing in-depthly about, especially when we talk about the different tools, data gathering instruments that is necessary and will be used in our qualitative study, and how to interpret them. So what I will just be going to discuss are the things necessary for us to prepare on this various data instrument and the gathering procedure and interpretation of these various data. Okay, for our session objectives, at the end of this session, participants are expected to, all of you are expected to first outline important considerations needed before data collection takes place. Engage in different data collection sources and strategies. Examine the different stages of qualitative research data analysis. Now, for our first topic, we'll be talking about preparing for data collection. Okay, so when we talk about preparation and the things that we need to do before we go with our data collection, sige daw, let me ask you, my dear participants, first, what are the things that comes into your mind first, or what do you think are the things that we need to consider first? The things that we need to consider when we are now going to conduct our data collection. You can write your answer in our chat box so that I can see your participation and the answers that you think are the necessary things we need to do for us to be prepared in our data collection. Okay, so based on your answer, if you have answered you are the type of individual who is anxious, you don't know what to do, or scared, especially when you are already in the data collection, then this research talks is one of the platform in which you can develop the skills necessary for you to become prepared, because we will be talking on the things you are needing for you to be prepared on this data collection. Or are you that individual who is prepared, very excited, enthusiastic, and happy when, especially when he or she hears data collection? Or are you that individual who is either fast on data collection because you are already expert, or fast because you do not care on the process at all? Okay, let us assess ourselves. Now, this moment, I will be presenting to you the list of the things that you need to be prepared of when you are going to have your data collection. Now, my dear participants, there are so many things that we need to take into consideration. And I have just listed down some of these. Actually, marami-rami na din to. We will not be discussing them one by one because it might take so much of our time. So, we will just be having a run through about this, but we will just be tackling also some of this and be discussing some of this as well. First is think about your data. What data do I need to address in my research questions or my research problems? Ano ba yung mga data na kailangan talaga ma-answer sa study mo? Or are those data that you are gathering will be helpful in answering the objective of your study? Or what is the quality of the data that I will be getting? Okay, so if we are trying to get data in qualitative study, we choose quality over to that of the quantity. So regardless of how many participants we are making use of the important things and necessary ideas we will be getting. Yung quality compared to that of the quantity. That is why we have what we call the point of saturation. Kung saan, regardless of, let us say, you have met the point of saturation at 5 or 10 participants, then you are already good to go. Is the data that I would like to collect acceptable in my field or qualitative research? What resources do I need to collect? How will I record, store, and manage it? So, paano mo ba i-collect yung data? Ano ba yung mga resources na kailangan mo? Ano ba yung mga materials na kailangan mo? At paano mo i-store yung data so that when you are already in the interpretation, madali na lang kunin. Think about data sources. What will I collect? Ano ba yung kailangan kong i-collect na data? Paano ko ba sila i-collect? Where can I get it from? Saan ko kukunin? What is the best way to get that data? What permission will I need to get it? Especially if your participants are professionals, especially if your participants are, for example, in a specific organization, a specific group in which kailangan talagang mag-undergo ka ng informed consent, process consent, and marami pang documents so that you can have an access to their documents. Kailangan magaling ka, especially when you are talking about having those documents necessary. Kasi, for example, if you still remember the last talk of our ingenious speaker, Sir Arturo, in his dissertation, he have stated that one of the hindrance that makes his dissertation prolonged is because his participants are from PRC. So, kailangan talaga marami kang process and documents na kailangan para makuha mo yung data necessary for your study. Same goes with the legal issues. And last, how will I demonstrate the rigor and quality? So, rigor and quality will be in-depthly discussed later on. Okay, so next is think about your research participants. Who are they? Sino ba sila? Mga taga saan? Kaya mo ba silang ma-access? So on and so forth. How willing are they to participate in your study? This is very important because in some cases, if you have participants and if you have study that needs to be conducted through shadowing, or you need to conduct your study all throughout the rest of a specific timeline or phenomena. Tapos, every now and then, you need to conduct an interview. Tapos, for example, in the first interview, okay sila. But in your next interview, which is very important na in your data, na kailangan mong makuha ito at kailangan mo silang ma-interview, bigla silang nag-quit. So, kailangan yung mga participants mo are willing all throughout until the end of your study. What are the risks? And what are the rights, the harms, the benefits that your participants might get? So kailangan alam nila kung ano yung mga karapatan nila. Alam din nila what are the possible risks that they will be getting in your study, especially if your study is gender sensitive, culture based, so on and so forth. Kailangan they know they know what are their role in your study and how can they be affected in your study, and what will happen if they become part of the study. How accessible are they? Are they one call away? Or are they the individuals who can be accessed immediately, especially if you need to conduct an interview in this specific period of time? Can they be accessible? Or what is the best way to recruit them? How much time is required of them, and how much time can they be willing to spend on my study? Take note of those things, because the key to have a good data are also your participants, especially if you are focused on determining their experiences. Kailangan maging confident sila on sharing their experiences to you. And they are also confident to become part and ready to become part in your study. Next is think about your resources. Your qualitative research competence, your communication skills, especially if we are already in qualitative study, which means that we are engaged in our data collection procedure compared to that of the quantitative study. Qualitative study is more engaging, especially when we talk about the difference on quali and quanti. Sa quanti, my dear participants, we are making use of getting meanings and interpreting them through the experiences of our participants. On the other hand, in quanti, we are making use of interpreting to statistical means, statistical tools. Kaya kailangan mas engage si researcher. Kaya nga tinatawag natin na participants, hindi respondents, pag gumagamit tayo ng qualitative study. In some universities, in some professors, kapag magsabi ka ng respondents, especially when you are making use of qualitative study, that is already a no-no. X ka na agad sa kanila. So, kailangan alam mo na when you are conducting qualitative study as a researcher, you cannot deny the fact that you need to be engaged. And you need to develop your communication skills and your confidence. Next is your knowledge about the topic. Okay? So, how well do you know your topic? Sabi nga nila, it's not about the topic, or it's not about the title lang, but it's all on the content or on the knowledge, how well you know your study. Kasi kahit baliktarin ka pa man namin, or baliktarin ka pa ng panel mo, as long as you know the objective, the goal of your study, you will be ready to answer those questions. Your knowledge about the research participants and their setting, time available or required to complete the study, or distance from your place to your research setting. So you need to take note of that. Next is think about data collection. Follow qualitative research principles to develop instruments, and that includes the validity of your instrument. You need to pilot test so that you can see how your instrument is reliable. You can also make use of your advisors, asking permission and having it validated from experts. Next is develop a complete informed consent form according to qualitative research standards, and have the form signed before data collection. Before data collection na, hindi yung magko-collect ka ng data tapos afterwards magpapasign ka na. Hindi. As researchers, kailangan yung the way how we conduct our study is very formal and very professional. So, kailangan regardless of our participants, kung kilala naman natin or hindi, we need to conduct it formally. So, kailangan give informed consent signed by our participants, they are willing to participate, then you conduct the study properly. Think about ethical issues. Ganito na, we have our approvals and permissions that includes the informed consent rather, and the process consent. So when we talk about process consent, it is a type of consent that is an ongoing consensual process that involves the researcher and the participant in a mutual decision. That means that your participant knows the study will go like this, you have explained it properly, and your participant approved. Then you have a mutual decision ensuring that the participant is informed in all the stages of the research, what will happen and what might be the possible changes in your study. Next is voluntary participation. Again, if they will be approving to become volunteer participants in your study, then they should have the commitment for you to finish your study. Okay? Next is confidentiality. Confidentiality refers to a condition in which the researcher knows the identity of a research subject but takes steps to protect that identity from being discovered by others. Okay, so when we talk about confidentiality, you ask your participant if they want their name to be included in your study. Pero pag ayaw nila, we can make use of pseudonyms or alias. On the other hand, when we talk about anonymity, it is a condition which the identity of individual subjects is not known to researchers. So, kailangan alam natin yung participants. It so happens that we will just be having their names or their identity confidential to others. Relevance of data. Manage, treatment, and reporting of data. Kailangan alam mo din kung paano mo properly i-manage at i-report yung data. Last is safety of participants and safety of the researcher. Again, take note of the term beneficence and non-maleficence. It is very important because this is one of the mantra in qualitative study, and not just qualitative study, in research, beneficence and non-maleficence, to do good and to do no harm. Whatever you do in research, make sure that it will all be for the benefit of yourself and for the researchers and for the whole universe. Okay? Kailangan lahat makaka-benefit at kailangan hindi ito makaka-harm kahit kanino man. Especially to the participants and the researcher as well, because you are the ones who are engaged on the data collection. We also have think about permission, think about transportation, think about security. For example, if your participants are from different locale, okay, make sure that you know that place, alam mo yung kung may mga instances man nga strangers might be in danger, histories like that, so palang alam mo. Think about technology. Think about entering and exit, especially this is on the interview process or in the data collection process. Now think about how you will introduce yourself, how will you start the interview process, how will you conduct the interview proper, then how will you exit, how will you say thank you, how will you finalize the interview process. So parang ganyan si entering and exit. And last is think about plan B. For example, your participants, they have already approved pero in phase 1 pero hindi sila nag-proceed sa phase 2, what will happen? Okay, so think about those instances that might hinder your study. Now, if that happens, always have a plan. There's so many letters in the alphabet, di ba? Okay, so think about those different considerations. Okay, so we are now done with our preparation. I hope that you have learned something. Let us now try to see if you have learned something naman. Let us put our insights, realizations, and inputs or the things that we want to share as well in the comment box. And let us have a discussion later on if there are additional things that you think is necessary for a researcher to list down as a preparation before data collection. Okay, so thank you so much for your answers. Since we are already done and I have seen that you have indeed learned in the preparation, I hope that you will be making use of that. We will now go to the qualitative research data collection. Okay, so we have various sources of data. So here are some of the ways and instruments we can use for us to gather this data necessary in our study. First is in-depth interviews. Second is focus group discussions. Third is observations. Fourth is artifacts. Fifth is documents or documentary analysis. Six is aesthetic portrayals. And seven is true photo voice. Okay, so the first source of data or the data collection tool or instrument that we will be talking is in-depth interviews. What do you mean by in-depth interviews? Compared to that of a regular conversation, we will talk about in-depth interview according to Will 2007. In-depth interviews talks about professional conversations. Kumbaga, we are not just communicating, but we have a purpose for having communication with a certain people. So we are asking questions, we are having conversations for the sake of gathering information and having data necessary for your study as well. Okay, so when to use an interview? According to Miriam 2009, page 88, when we cannot observe behavior, feelings, or how people interpret the world around them, for past events that are impossible to replicate, example, past school event, past catastrophic event, or the old normal. The common example that I'm giving to my students, to my class, or to my during my talks is the experience, is the example also that I can share because I've experienced this myself during a long time ago. So summer and Leyte, we have experienced a tremendous typhoon which is known as Typhoon Yolanda, which have affected many lives and killed many people. So because of that, we cannot replicate the event, of course, but we can ask those who have experienced the phenomena what are their experience. So diyan napapasok si interview. So we can ask them about their lived experiences, their life world during the how they experience the phenomena, their world view during those phenomena that they are experiencing. So that is the purpose of interview. When we cannot quantify or we cannot observe feelings, behavior, so on and so forth, we make use of asking questions professionally through interview. Now, there are various types of interview. We have what we call structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. Unstructured interview, these are questions and the responses, and the response categories are predetermined by the researcher, most common in quantitative interview. So, examples of these are those that have already predetermined answers na kailangan na lang i-check and so on and so forth. Next is semi-structured interview. So this is most common in qualitative interview. The researcher has a list of questions, but there is a scope for the participants to raise issues that the researcher has not anticipated. Actually, one of the concerns sa interview is when you are conducting interview, make sure that regardless if you have already anticipated answer, as much as possible, remove that anticipation. So in qualitative study, we call that term bracketing. Kumbaga, we suspend our judgment regardless of how we expect our participants will answer us like this. So we have already expectations, anticipated answer. We, as much as possible, we remove that. We suspend our judgment because there are instances that biases might occur if the expectation that we are the expected answers that we are expecting will not be the one we receive. Okay, so kailangan researchers we suspend our judgment, and that term is called bracketing. Next is unstructured interview. The researcher has a list of themes or topics to discuss with the participants, but the interviewer is strongly participant-led. In some cases, this can also be used in narrative inquiry, kung saan we just let our participants tell their story tell, then we just list the important, their whole story, then we take those important parts of their story. So it is more on participant-led. Now, modes of interviews. As you can see in the screen, virtual or online interviews have already been used before pa ng pandemic. But because of the pandemic, because of the new normal, it was reiterated, it was emphasized that virtual conferencing is one of the best tools we can use in this time of pandemic, especially when we're conducting interviews. But before, mas maganda talaga when we talk about face-to-face interview. Kaya nga siya sinasabing gold standard, the most ideal way to collect data. But again, sa virtual, may sinasabi tayong telephone, email, and online through teleconferencing. Next, we have focus group discussion. Compared to that of the interview, focus group discussion is an interview style for small groups of unrelated individuals. Mga sometimes 3 to 6, so 5 to 10. Okay, yan yung mga minimum maximum. In some references, we make use of 3 as long as that is 2 or more but not exceeding on 10 participants. It is used as a standalone or as a triangulation. Okay, when we talk about triangulation, my dear participants, teachers, researchers, and students, triangulation is one of the best tools to determine reliability, consistency, and validity. Because we make use of not just one data collection tool, but we make use of various data collection tool, sometimes 2, 3, to check the consistency of result. That can be used on data collection or also in the results. So how can we say that our results are consistent? We make use of various instruments and various procedures. Focus group discussion is also read by moderator, and that moderator is you, the researcher. It encourages participants to speak freely and completely. Okay, you establish rapport, make sure that your participants are willing to participate. Sometimes it takes 1 to 2 hours long. Now here are some difference between the in-depth and the focus group discussion. We have 30 minutes, or likely mga 1 person. On focus group discussion, 60 to 90 minutes, 5 to 10 people. More detail, more breadth. Can be done by phone, in-depth interviews, focus group discussion requires a physical location, but today, pwede na tayong gumawa ng focus group discussion through online teleconferencing as well. So we have already trainings that conduct how to have qualitative data analysis, procedure, and collection through online platforms. Might get individuals who have no time for focus groups. Okay, that is for in-depth discussion. There are various individuals cannot have specific schedule ba. So, mahirapan kang isama sila in one group for your data collection. Kaya, sometimes, interview is convenient. Kasi, kung when siya available, pwede mo siya ma-interview. Pero if you are going to collect them as a group, kailangan yung schedule nila are all of them are convenient. Next is better for sensitive subjects in-depth interviews where we have participants who prefer more to be asked individual, one-on-one lang kasi yung iba is mga antisocial, 'di ba? So kailangan you know your participants as well. Wala ding sa pilitan and you cannot choose how your participants prefer to. Now, in the focus group discussion, it's better for exploration, brainstorming, because brainstorming two heads are better than one. You let your participants think and share their ideas. So, pwede silang mag-collaborative talk about certain issues and concerns. That's also through focus group discussion. Doing many interview is repetitive. Diba? Tinanong mo na sa isa, tinanong mo naman sa iba. Why not make use of focus group discussion? Next is easy to listen to one person. Mas madaling mapakinggan at makahabol kung isa lang tao compared to that of the focus group discussion. Na instances are your participants might be already engaged na sabay-sabay na sila magsalita. As moderator, kailangan expert at professional ka talaga sa mga kanyan because you need to become a good moderator and facilitator to get a good result in your focus group discussion. Now, here are some characteristics of a good focus group discussion. First is clearly defined objective or problem. So, as moderator, i-state mo sa kanila yan. Group selection. Your group should be willing and be included in your selection criteria. Environment and rapport. Listening facilitator. Actually, when talk about the good thing about qualitative study is that you get to have more network. You get to have more friends, especially if you are conducting qualitative study tapos mga strangers yung mga participants mo. Instances are you get to have more friends, 'di ba? Especially for example, one of the studies that I am conducting pero hindi ko matapos-tapos is about individuals during quarantine, so on and so forth. So I met individuals from various places all around the world, asking them about their lived experiences during the quarantine, ganyan. And I get to meet them virtually I get also to be friends with them on social media. Listening facilitator, you get to develop your listening and communication skills. Well-organized and prepared moderator. And also equipped and skilled moderator. Research assistants, you can also have research assistant to help you during the data gathering procedure. For focus group discussion, you are the moderator, you also have assistant who will be taking down notes or helping you gathering the data while you are busy facilitating your participants. Next is systematic data. So you get to have your idea and results systematically. Okay, so for the next data collection tool or instrument that we are going to discuss is the direct or silent observation. So when we talk about direct or silent observation, the researcher observes silently. It can range from formal to casual data collection activities. Now, with formal, observational protocol must be developed before data collection. So, kailangan may informed consent, so on and so forth, that your participants know that you are going to conduct an observation. It could be used by different members of the research team to increase consistency. Now, if you have a team, hindi ka lang individual na kumakonduct ng study mo, it is good that it is not only you who will be observing. All of your team will be observing as well. Then you will try to see with each other if you have the same observations, that you will be able to see how consistent are the results of your observation. We have also what we call the participant observation. The researcher is an active observer naman. He or she assumes active roles in the research environments, or he or she identifies with the participants the following concerns. What could be the positive aspects or what could be the drawbacks in my study or the observation that I am conducting? Now, in our observation process, take note of this. Select a site to be observed that can help you best understand the central phenomena. Decide ways to access the site, formal or informal, and explain why the access was the best approach. So, you choose in your certain place or local kung saan ka magkakandak ng observation, saan mas convenient, saan mo mas ma-observe lahat, so on and so forth. Design some means for recording notes. In some cases, or if we are conducting observation, we are making use of observation guides. Now, we have various observation guides, but pwede din naman ako magpakita ng sample mamaya yung mga ginagamit namin. Design, and now next is into the site slowly by looking around, getting general sense of the site and limited notes. Make sure as well that if you are already in the site of your observation, be conscious and be conscious and make sure that you are aware of the environment, because we cannot deny the fact that the instances might occur. So, kailangan alam mo when to exit, saan ka pwedeng maka-exit agad if there are instances that might harm you, or kung ano yung dapat mong observe na maybe you have participants or maybe you're observing that the individuals you're observing may find you weird or something. So, kailangan alam mo and you are sensitive in your environment. Okay, so at the site, identify who or what to observe and how long to observe. If you are going to observe in specific period of time, kailangan alam mo kung sino yung i-observe mo at kung paano ka mag-observe. Now, determine your role if you are silent or participant. Consider conducting multiple observations over time to obtain the best understandings of the site and the individuals. Kapag sa data gathering procedure kasi, my dear participants, to all our viewers, we have what we call the term shadowing. So if you are going to conduct if you are going to collect data na kailangan all throughout multiple interviews, multiple observations, succeeding every now and then, kailangan mo mag-interview, kailangan mo mag-observe, then that is what we call shadowing. So all throughout your study, all throughout in a specific period of time, kailangan mo tignan if there are changes occurring. For example, the experiences of individuals during the quarantine. So every now and then you will be asking them until such time na if tapos na yung quarantine, then you have already gathered the data necessary. Now, consider what information you will record, if it is important, if it can help also in the study, or it can also be an additional input in your study, then consider what information you will be recording. Record descriptive and interpretive field notes. Make yourself known but remain unobstructive. Be there in your presence but do not interrupt. Slowly withdraw from the site after observing. Provide summary of findings if formal access was used. Now, if you have conducted formal observation, then your participants should know and should have the privilege to be able to see the results of your observation. Consider what, who, where, and when to observe. Also, how, kung paano mo gagawin yung observation, take into consideration that as well. Okay, so the next one is physical artifacts. This is also one of the data collection tool or methods that we are using. Physical or cultural artifacts, technological device, tool or instrument, work of art, other physical evidences, the past and the present artifacts or technologies that we're using, and how can we describe them through photo or video cam or oral memo. We can make use of that as well. Next is document analysis, or sometimes we call it documentary analysis. make use of documents such as letters, diaries, paper, biography, in narrative inquiry as well, and so on and so forth. Marami pa tayo niyan ginagamit. Sometimes we are making use of news as well. We are making use of articles, document analysis. For example, for a study on mentoring novice faculty. So here is an example of a study focused on mentoring novice faculty. So the documents can be mentoring kit, the lesson plan, the clinical observation from the mentor and the mentee, such as pre-con or the pre-conference, the observation and the post-conference. We can make use also of the COT, the RPMS, so on and so forth. So, pwede natin yung magamit if the study similar to this, mentoring novice faculty. So, kailangan may mga documents din to support your study. Okay, so next is one of my favorites, aesthetic portrayals or photo voice. Actually, again, I've been very enthusiastic to share to you because some of the participants here, especially for those who are novice or new in practical research, one or in qualitative study, we make use of aesthetic portrayals or photo voice to have beauty pa in our data collection, in giving meaning pa on the experiences of our participants, because we cannot deny the fact that some of our participants, they prefer not to give their experiences or not to share verbally, because we do not know the reasons behind that, but we can make use of aesthetic portrayals kung saan yung participants can give art, interpret their experiences through poems, through songs, and they can also give pictures and give interpretation to it. So that is the beauty of aesthetic portrayals. So here is an example from the training that I have attended from the Asian Qualitative Research Association, which has also one of the reasons why I am here, because of those trainings that I have attended. This study is retrieved or came from the president herself of the Asian Qualitative Research Association today, Dr. Arceli Rosario, which talks about the portrait of a superwoman, finding compatibility and balance between motherhood and graduate school. So, more on feminist approach yung study. Na paano ba niya inatake? In what method does she made use of her study? Okay, so here's an example. Before we go with the data collection procedure, here is an example of the confidentiality that I am talking. The participants, not their real names, they made use of pseudonyms. So they made use of those various words in behalf of the name of the participants. Okay, so this is one of the example of aesthetic portrayals. These images and voices seemed negative, but the participants saw something else. Diba? Hope took a picture of an intricate design in her daughter's drawing book. She explained, "This is my busy life, dealing with small details," so on and so forth. Then they were able to present a painting with an interpretation of poem. Afterwards, they were able to interpret as well the idea and the experiences of the participants, the shared information of the participants through a poem. So we summarize their statements and put them together into poetic representation. After that, they have generalized and they have concluded through the use of charcoal drawing. From the narrative and poetic portraits, we composed a poetic representation of the superwoman. Most of the images and voices focused on the present and the ideal that they aspired to be. So we also asked an artist to depict the poem in the charcoal drawing. So that is also an example of aesthetic portrayal. Di ba napakaganda? Ang lively, magandang basahin if we are also seeing pictures like that. Hindi natin in-expect na meron palang ganyan, no, sa qualitative study. Now you can put that into your qualitative data collection method. Next is we are talking about rigor in qualitative research. So what do we mean by rigor in qualitative research? When we talk about rigor in qualitative research, it is defined as the strength of the research design and the appropriateness of the method to answer the question. So how strong and how are you sure that the result of your studies are consistent, reliable, and so on and so forth? That is why we have what we call the trustworthiness. So trustworthiness, demonstration that the evidence for the results reported is sound and when the argument made on the results is true, according to Labanca 2010. So here are how can you determine the trustworthiness of in qualitative research. We have credibility. Take note of this term: credibility, consistency, dependability, consistency or dependability, transferability, and confirmability. Credibility is similar to internal validity. Consistency or dependability is similar to reliability. Transferability is similar to external validity, generalizability, applicability. Confirmability is similar to objectivity. Now, in the right part, I know you might be familiar with that. Actually, that is an example of quantitative research. So if you convert that to qualitative research, the definitions are in the left: credibility, consistency, dependability, transferability, confirmability. So what are those definitions? What are those words? Before we tackle those words, let us first build trustworthiness. Maintaining field journals. To make sure that there's trustworthiness, have a day-to-day log of activities. Daytime activity, what person in charge, with whom. So developing constructions, commentary on the perceived influence on one's own biases, expectations about what will happen next, methodological log, decisions on the emergent design. So you include in your trustworthiness the day-to-day activity that you have done in your research so that you can see if there are instances that there's human error, there are biases occurring, so on and so forth. So that is also included in your considerations. Next is mounting safeguards. So you determine or identify the effects of the researcher's presence on the site. So as a researcher, make sure that your presence will not intimidate or will not affect the participants, or you will not be influencing the data that you will be having from your participants. So inadequate attention to the details of the data collection instances is bias might occur. Now, team interaction. Make use of team interaction so that you can talk with your group as well what will happen in your study, so that as much as possible you will be removing errors or technical errors or human errors, or you might be having biases that you are not conscious of. Next is triangulation. Triangulation is very important as well in qualitative study to make sure that trustworthiness is present. The data collected is what do you call that? Compared or also check if it is consistent through the use of other
Oo,
data
siya nga.
collection method
Oo,
or
teng,
tools.
galing ako Tagbarunis, galing ka
Adequacy of
Puerto.
referential materials, debriefing
Lisa.
between the team, and also
So
audit
please
trail.
share
What do you mean by credibility? Okay, so eto na, we are already on the terms in our trustworthiness. So when we talk about credibility, you capture the reality or the study measures or test what is actually intended to measure. That is according to Shenton 2004. The findings are congruent with reality. So kung ano yung expect mo, it should be real, it should be congruent to what is intended to be measured. Actually, and also it should be realistic. Okay, so next is transferability. When we talk about transferability, you must think if your results are applicable to all. It means extent to which the findings of the study can be applied to the situations or to various fields or value. If this can also be integrated in other field as well, according to Miriam 1998. Now next is dependability or consistency, also known as reliability. Now, if the study were repeated in the same context, with the same methods and with the same participants, the question is, will it be similar? Will the results be similar? So that is dependability or consistency. Next is confirmability or objectivity. From the term itself, you need to remove biases. You need to suspend your judgment. Kailangan wala tayong biases, especially when we are conducting our study. We ensure that the findings are the result of the experiences and ideas of the informants rather than the characteristics and preferences of the researchers. Again, as much as possible in qualitative study, kahit mahirap because instances our biases might occur, we must as much as possible remove them. Kaya we have the next thing that I will be discussing is how can we cannot deny the fact that biases might occur, but how can we include in our study that humans as we are, biases might occur, so on and so forth. So later on we will be discussing about that. Okay, so we also have what we call the audit trail. When we talk about audit trail, it is a transparent description of the research steps taken from the start of a research project to the development and reporting of findings. So these are records that are regarding what was done on an investigation. So parang transparent diary na ginagawa mo all throughout from your study to be able to see that your study have followed step-by-step process, formal approach, just like what I've stated earlier. For you to have a good trustworthiness, you include as well a journal that you have conducted your study from the beginning until you are done with your study. Okay, so next we have what we call reflexivity and positioning. So dito na natin ipapasok yung reasons and the things that we can do so that we can have a proper escape po. That is the term that we will be using, so that we can remove possible biases. Now, we cannot deny the fact that biases might occur because our philosophies might affect the study. So that is why reflexivity and positioning is present. Okay, so reflexivity and positioning, what and how? Paano natin gagamitin and how will we make use of these various terms? First, let us talk about positionality. When we talk about positionality, it refers to a researcher's worldview on their research topic. So when we talk about worldview, it talks about the philosophy, the ideas, the beliefs of the individual, or we are talking about the researchers on specific issue concerns or the topic that he or she is doing. Now, it is a process of continual reflection upon the research process by a researcher. Now, the heart of the reflexivity is the idea of self-awareness. So, if you know in yourself that you have this type of philosophy, values that might affect the study, then that is good because that can be included in your reflexivity and positioning. Also, how the researcher's worldview shapes the scope of the study. With regards to the background of the researcher, the identities, experiences, values, and assumptions, how can it affect to the scope of the whole research study? Now, because of this, being conscious of your biases, values, and experiences, and make this explicit within the research paper, you will be able to state your reflexive comments. Or also, it is known as reflexivity. Now, reflexivity can be divided into two types. We have what we call prospective and retrospective. When we talk about prospective reflexivity, it refers to the effects of the researcher on the study. So, as a researcher, you have various philosophies, concerns, ideas, and beliefs that if you do not know, if you do not know reflexivity, that might affect your study. Next is whereas to retrospective reflexivity refers to the effects of the study on the researcher. That is according to Atiyah and Edge 2016. So take note, asan ka ba dyan? Or there are instances that are you the researcher because of your philosophies might affect the study, or are you that individual who can be affected by your study? Okay, so since we have already talked about reflexivity and positioning and the two types of reflexivity, it is now safe to say that we will now go to how we will be able to write our reflexivity and positioning. This is according to the study of Hisbiber 2017, page 45. So these are the things that you need to list and you need to consider as well in writing your reflexivity and positioning. So number one is what particular biases, if any, do I bring to or impose onto my research? So kailangan as much as possible as early as today, when you conduct your study, you have already list of the particular biases that might affect your study. Second is how do my specific values, attitudes, and theoretical perspectives influence the research style I take on. Third is how does my own agenda shape what I ask and what I find. Sometimes kasi especially if we are conducting interview, we are conducting qualitative study, 'di ba? Sinabi na natin that we have already assumptions and expectations in our mind. And because of expectations and assumptions already in our mind, there are instances that we are influencing our participants to answer what we are expecting. Okay, so please, since we have already discussed about this, suspend your judgment and make sure that the objective of your study will only be the objective of your study is the goal only of your interview process. So the goal of your interview is to answer the objective, to answer your research questions, no more, no less. Okay, I hope that we are clear about that. So next is how does my position on these issues impact how I gather, analyze, and interpret my data. For example, your study focuses on something very complex, such as abuse, so on and so forth. Now, if you want to conduct the study, be focused on your objective. That is our goal. Focus on our objective lang. Because instances is you might go beyond what is expected in your study, and that is not where we are supposed to do. Okay, so do not go beyond what is intended and what is expected, the goal and aim in your study. So again, how is your position on those issues impact or affect how you gather, analyze, and interpret your data? Analyze only based on the data gathered, interpret based on the results shown. Huwag kang mag-sugarcoat, so on and so forth, because again, the biases will be present and the result will not be as pure as what we are expecting. So keep a research journal where you can write down your reflections on the research process. How do your attitude and values enter into the research process? And do they compromise the research process in any way? So when you conduct your study, make sure that you're aware in yourself and you state as honest as you can, because honesty in your paper will have pure results, and that will be good regardless of the results. As long as the answer is pure, as long as what you have conducted is clean on your conscience, then you will be having a pure and good results. Now, why is reflexivity used in qualitative research? First is one aim of prospective reflexivity is to ensure credibility of results by reducing the chances of the researcher biasing the study. Second is reflexivity can also help researchers become aware of how the values, opinions, and experiences they've brought to the research can be a positive thing. And reflexivity is really important in qualitative research because there are so many ways in which a researcher could affect the study when it comes to our philosophy, to the researcher's idea, beliefs, culture that might contradict on the participants' point of view. Because of that, it could affect the creation of the data, the tools, the collecting of the data, analyzing, and reporting the data. So this is because of the subjective nature of qualitative study. Because compared to that of qualitative study, mas prone to bias si quali compared to that of the quanti. So here is an example of reflexivity and positioning. So this is how it is stated, the reflexivity and positioning. We, the researchers, are Christian researchers and educators. We believe in the value of every individual, especially the youth. As researchers, one of our advocacies is the empowerment of marginalized groups, among them teens and women. In this research study, we focus on teen mothers, specifically those who are still in their 20s and 30s. Through our study, we hope to give our participants a venue to make sense of their experiences and to find direction for the future. Okay, so however, as Christians, we are also moralists who have the tendency to judge another person's behavior or condition as right or wrong based on moral principles espoused in the Bible as we understand them. So to ensure that our participants could express their views about their feeling without being judged about their condition as a teen mothers, all of them having born their child out of wedlock, we as a team talked about our preconceived ideas about how we viewed teen mothers and their condition. So they have already, as much as they want, as much as they can, they have already conducted the briefing first, or they have talked as a team about the possible instances of bias because of their beliefs and culture, again, and also to the nature of their study. So we recognized our stand as a Christian that while we do not approve premarital sex, it is our duty to restore the dignity of a human being. And to give them hope, as educators, we believe in the importance of education in freeing individuals and societies from poverty and ignorance and giving them freedom to dream for a better future. So that is how you write your reflexivity and positioning. Here is also an example. As an oldest sibling in college with 3 younger siblings, I guess this study focuses on understanding the experiences of his or her younger siblings in the context of the researcher's point of view as the oldest sibling. So as an oldest sibling in college with 3 younger siblings, I understand and am aware of the roles and responsibilities that surround being the oldest sibling, but I lack the understanding of what is it like to be the youngest sibling. So the term "what is it like" is one of the common introduction to a research question in phenomenological study. What is it like to become like that? What is it like to become like that? What is the lived experiences? So those are some of the common research questions when you talk about phenomenological approach. Again, what is it like to be the youngest sibling and how they experience their life differently? I wanted to understand more about what the youngest sibling experienced, how the relationship with their siblings has changed over time, and how they describe the relationship with their siblings. Okay, so those are some example of reflexivity and positioning. So please take note of this. and take note how you will be able to have a good reflexivity and positioning. Next, the last topic that I will be discussing, actually this is just, I will not be in-depthly discussing the data analysis, but I will be giving you a run-through about what is the common data analysis interpretation method that we are using in qualitative study. Now, before we go with the tool or the method, let us first again have the rigor in data analysis. If we have rigor in qualitative study, we have rigor as well in data analysis to check if the justifications, the results is consistent or true. Number one, checking and rechecking the accuracy of data. How we'll be able to check the accuracy of data? We can make use of triangulation. Making your analysis as thorough and complete as possible rather than cutting corners. Continually acknowledging the unwanted biases by your own values when you are analyzing your data. Again, if you cannot 100% say that biases have not been included in your data, include that in your bracketing or reflexivity and positioning. So here are the 5 phases of data analysis. Sometimes it's common we are making use of thematic analysis. We have also 5 phases of data analysis according to Yin 2011. So the first thing that we need to do in analyzing our data is compiling. We compile first our data in order. Next is, upon compiling, we break down those compiled data into fragments. Then after breaking down those fragments, assign them according to their classifications. After you assign them according to classifications, you label them. Then you classify them, you label them, and you code them according to their classifications. Next is reassembling. So after you have coded them, you group those codes. Either you can make use of tables, graphs, or lists. Next is interpreting. After you have gathered those codes, you will be getting meaning based on the results or the data that you have gathered once you have already compiled them. So, interpretation, my dear participants, are not through statistical tools. So, you may be asking, we make use of graphs or tables, but not through percentages or numerical representation. So, we make use of words, or in thematic analysis, we make use of tables kung saan sa isang column we can write there the codes, and then afterwards in the other column the interpretation between those codes. And last is concluding. You draw conclusions based on what have you interpreted on each and every codes. So that is how you analyze your data based on the collected data on your data collection process using your tools. Okay, so this is a simple framework on how you will be able to gather and collect your data. Again, my dear participants, some of these topics that I've discussed will be in-depthly discussed more by our succeeding speakers. Okay, so you wanted us to collect data. You still need to understand it though. It is not enough that you just collect data. You need to understand it. You need to find meaning behind those data. The most concise qualitative data is based on careful triangulation. Yes. And what society thinks I do? Well, I do qualitative study. What my colleagues thinks I do, what my mom thinks I do, what my friends thinks I do, what I think I do, actually what I really do. Okay? So it is very difficult to conduct qualitative study, especially in this time of pandemic. And this is one of the initiative of BNBOK's publication. I hope that we'll be able to make use of the learnings that we have gathered, so that when we conduct our study, regardless of whatever situation is, magiging pandemic proof tayo, we can still conduct qualitative study. Now, before I finish my talk, I will be leaving you this quote according to Mervyn Gordon. No research is ever quite complete. It is the glory of a good bit of work that it opens the way for something still better, and this repeatedly leads to its own eclipse. Again, if you want to have a good research, data, if you really want to have a good result in your study, be prepared. Always take into consideration what are the things that you need to do and the work that you need to put in your study. Again, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you have learned something. If you learned something, can you please type yes? If you learned something, if you have questions, we can have that after my talk during our question and answer portion. Thank you so much. I hope you have learned something and you will be able to incorporate that in your studies. Thank you so much again and see you next time.
Yes, sir, definitely. We learned a lot. Okay, so many thanks, sir, for that impressive and very objective presentations of the topics. So let's find out, sir, if there are questions from our participants. Anyone? Just one or two questions may do. Okay, any question, my dear fellows from the academy or my dear student participants from our room? Wala po. I just have fetched one question a while ago from Miss Madeline Elumbaring and said, "Good evening. Using FGD, individual interview and silent observation, is it formal or informal setting when you use the social media platform?" Sir Javen.
Hello, narinig po
Hello,
ma'am.
Sir Javen. Okay, so our question came from Miss Madeline Elumbaring and said, using FGD, individual interview and silent observation, is it formal or informal setting when you use the social media platform?
Okay ma'am, actually, I will be using lang this Zoom about Beyond Books po kasi at the same time ako pa rin yung IT ko. So, yung Zoom ng Beyond Books yung ginagamit ko sa audio na lang ng Beyond Books. Marinig niyo. Actually, ma'am, that will be discussed furthermore when we talk about those instruments na. But sasabihin ko na lang, yes, if you are going to conduct data collection, necessary talaga na you need to have a formal communication with your participants because that regardless if that will be through online or offline, that is still a research study and that requires informed consent and permission from your participants.
Okay, so thank you for answering your query, sir. So how about this, sir? A personal message was sent to me to my inbox, and the question is, how many interviews are needed for a study in qualitative research approach? So I think he's asking for the ideal number of participants. Okay, sir.
Actually, ma'am, sa participants naman, the beauty in qualitative study is that wala tayong sinasabing limited or minimum or maximum numbers of participants. Pero in some cases, meron mga recommendations. But we are making use of the term saturation. So for example, you are going to conduct an interview for a group of people about their experiences during the pandemic. You just ask, and then if you meet the point of saturation, when we talk about point of saturation, ito yung their ideas, yung habang tinatanong mo sila pa ulit-ulit na lang yung sagot, you get similar answers from 10 participants, then you try to see if the point of saturation is there to the 11 participants, tapos same answer yung nakuha mo, then you can put that into your paper that you have met the point of saturation.
Okay, so well said, sir. Anyway, sir, from our FB viewers po, I
Ma'am
think,
Cyril,
yes,
permission
Doc.
to talk. I know
Yes.
there are a lot of those who are watching us are doing not only action research, but also even thesis and dissertation. We know well that even in from the level of teachers, we are required to do action or applied research. And all our research study is actually rooted from the basic education research agenda. And it was identified that studies can be conducted either quantitative, qualitative, or mixed method. As to the first question raised to Sir Jaben, actually, he is very correct that particularly now that we are in the time of the pandemic, the best platform is actually social media or other application for that matter. In fact, there is even a qualitative research method or approach that can be conducted purely through social media. And that is exactly what I was sharing with some colleagues in the previous day. No? Itago na lang natin siya sa pangalan na Dr. Arlene Tominis Carlos. We have this study in qualitative research we call ethnography. Ethnography is a version of doing ethnographic study using only information in social media. I will not go deeper into that. But yes, social media could be a platform, and it's as to it is formal or informal. Actually, it depends on the structure of your questioning. You are just using a platform. It is just a substitute of doing a face-to-face interview, may it be a structured interview or unstructured interview. As to the questions on the ideal number, again, our speaker is very correct. The number of participants depend on the kind and the approach of study we do. I don't know if many of our participants know, actually we can conduct one qualitative study with only one participant, and that is when you do narrative inquiry approach. It's just that it will vary on the number of engagement you have with your participants. Sa madaling salita, kahit isa lang yung participant mo, ay kakausapin mo siya ng hindi lang isang beses. At gaano ba katagal? Hindi naman siguro walang hanggan. No? It depends on the kind of questions you want to get or the answers you want to get from your participant. When you do narrative inquiry, for example, you try to ask questions of his past, of his present, and his future. As long as you were able to satisfy your statement of the problem. And Sir Javen is correct when he said about the point of saturation. Sa madaling salita, yung point of saturation ay kapag napansin mo paulit-ulit na lang yung sinasabi ng iyong mga participant, then it's actually a signal for you na ay, tama na. Although there were suggestions, for example, that there's particular approach, at least, for example, Wambaleka of 2018, our good friend from Asian Qualitative Research Association, the founding president said, there are actually recommended number, but very minimal participant per the kind of qualitative study. But again, kahit sinabi doon na 25 participants, 10 pa lang, you will already reach the saturation point, then you could stop. No? So, mahabang usapin. Actually, ito yung data gathering, in particular with qualitative. Napaka-interesting lang. Kaso lang, I think we have the scarcity of time to discuss it now. Just to give clarification for some. And if you have further question, actually, you could message our speaker, Sir Jaben Lucion, and you could even message our Facebook page. Thank you, Dr. Sairi.
Yes, so can we still entertain one more question, sir, from our FB viewers? Just one, I think. So I think this is the most, or actually one of the most exciting part of our research talk. Okay, so it's a brainstorming or an exchange of ideas and insights. Anyway, for our last question, I take this one. Thank you, Doc Myra, for this. In terms po, if data collection po, paano po ba natin mame-measure yung credibility at authenticity ng isang respondent pagdating po sa gathering data procedure, especially nowadays na new normal way po tayo kung saan very limited ang galaw ng tao. And most of the researchers po nag-conduct or nag-gather na lang ng survey data through online platforms. So, she or he is asking for the credibility and authenticity of the instrument or mga procedures in gathering data. Sir Jaben?
Actually, kung kailan last, yun na yung mahirap-hirap na question, no? Actually, ma'am, that is already part na ng ethnography. So when we talk about online platforms and the use of, for example, sa breakout sa FGD, introduce na yung breakout rooms. So we can make use of the ethnography which will be discussed furthermore. And if we are talking about the credibility, as long as we have given informed consent and we make use of the recordings as well, that can also be included that can also be added into your trustworthiness that you have indeed conducted a focus group discussion or online interview properly and with and following the necessary process. So ganun, you can make use of that.
Yes, sir. So thank you, sir, for answering our last query. For as much as we want to entertain your queries po, very limited lang kaso we are having a very limited time. So I think we can move on to our next part of the session. Doc Myra, please. Okay, so so this time we will be, or it is my pleasure to present the certificate of recognition. So beyond books and publications, Makabebe, Pampanga, Philippines, certificate of recognition is presented to Jben P. Locson for being the resource speaker during the Beyond Books Publication Research Talks for Practical Research 1 with the topic Data Collection, Data Gathering Instrument, and Analysis Procedure via Zoom. Given this 21st day of May 2021, signed by our CEO, President, Dr. Leonilo B. Capulso. Okay, so about a virtual
Thank you so
clap
much po.
for
Thank
Sir
you for the
Jben.
opportunity
Okay.
po, Sir Doc Leonil, and to all the BBP family. Thank you po.
Thank you, Sir Javen, and good luck on your future endeavors. So please continue to perform our mission. Okay, so this time let me invite our chair for this research talks of for Practical Research 1, Maria Teresa G. Calapis, for our closing remarks.
Thank
Doc
you, Doc
Cyril,
Cyril.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Doc
po.
Tess, before the
Yes, sir.
closing remarks of Doc Tess, while we still have our participants, can we please have our photo op?
Yes,
And then
yes.
Dr.
I
Tess
almost forget.
will proceed.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you po.
So
Thank you.
we appreciate if you open your camera for those who are able to open their camera for our documentation. Okay, thank you very much. We have actually 4 panes from my end. Okay. Please know that we will be posting these pictures in our Facebook page so that you can eventually use it as your evidence of participation. While we are waiting for others, Dr. Myra Flores, our IT with Sir Jaben, will be posting the evaluation form so that you can get your e-certificates. And then we end our closing program with Dr. Tess Calapis giving our closing remarks. So from the first pane, can we have our smile? I'm taking the picture. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I got the 1 pane. Please stay. Because we have 4 panes. Second pane. 1, 2. Okay. Third pane. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1 last pane. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Doc Cyril, you can now proceed. I got the photos already.
Yes, as I request or invite Maria Teresa G. Calapis for our closing remarks. The screen is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you, Doc Cyril. Magandang gabi po
Welcome,
sa
ma'am.
lahat. I would like to thank all the wonderful and hardworking people behind these research talks headed by our very own BBP CEO President, Dr. Leonilo B. Capulso, Dr. Doy, to our resource speaker for tonight, and IT in charge, Sir Jben Locson. Sir, you really raise your flag in sharing your expertise tonight in the for discussing the topic on data collection. Congratulations for that, sir. Thank you so much. And to all the ICT team headed by Dr. Myra Flores and Ma'am Yvette Viniano. Of course, our very charming moderator for tonight, Doc Cyril Galang from Region 3. Maraming salamat din po. And the PR1 people, regional coordinator headed by from the Region 3, headed by Dr. Rio Gel Santiago, my co-chair for PR1. And of course, coordinators from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, who always supported us. Thank you so much. And the people who are taking time out of their busy schedule, professional and personal busy schedule, you still manage to be with us every Friday. So thank you for that from the bottom of my heart, from PR1 people. Maraming salamat po. May the spirit of research be upon us, and of course, happy weekend everyone. Maraming salamat sa inyo.
Thank you,
So,
ma'am, for
Please
yes.
continue to follow us. We still have 3 to 4 speakers. So before we will end the PR1 talk. So continue to support us. Maraming salamat po ulit.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for gracing the session. Okay, so a special thanks to the following in making our time so productive and fruitful, for I know you really learned a lot with our eminent speaker. So many thanks to you, of course, our participants all the way from, of course, Pampanga, Cagayan, Nueva Ecija, Botolan, Bulacan, Laguna, even in Cebu, Misamis Oriental, and of course, from Samar. Overwhelming din po. Just saw a while back all the way from Thailand. Okay, so thank you for your endless support to Beyond Books Publications on this advocacy of promoting the culture of research. To the technical working group who really work hard just to provide meaningful sessions, our ICT masters, and all the organizers. Okay, sir, of course, our President, CEO, Dr. Leonilo Capulso. Thank you for making time in your busy schedule to join us here in this evening. So it's been my pleasure to be your facilitator for today's session, and I wish you all a pleasant evening. Thank you for everything that you've accomplished so far, and good luck to everything you will in the future. So maraming salamat po, and keep safe, everyone. Thank you. Salamat po.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, while waiting for others to leave, I think our IT group can play our promo pictures or videos. So you can now leave our room.